Hello to you all in Primary 3-4. I'm sorry you're not able to come to the church as you usually would to see everything in the church, but I'm going to give you a virtual tour now, and you can see everything that we're going to be looking at from here, and then we'll go and look at the things in detail. So what are we walking along as we come into church here? It's called the aisle. And you find an aisle between the pews. It's just a kind of corridor. You also find them in aeroplanes. And you even have them in supermarkets between the rows of shelves. So we're on the aisle walking down to the front of the church here. As we look around the church, what do you see most of? Well, they're called pews, which are just long benches with backs so that everyone has somewhere to sit. Some churches have taken their pews out and replaced them with individual comfortable seats. And you see something else that's different at the moment, stuck on to the back of the pews. These signs say, "Please sit here." That's because of the virus. We all have to wear masks and have to sit in particular places so that we can be 2 meters away from each other. So that's why we have these signs. As we come to the front of the church, what is this object in front of me? A lot of these objects have got quite funny names. This one's called a lectern. It's just a tall stand with a sloping top so that someone can read from it. And what happens during the church service is part of the Bible is read, and we do that because we believe that God speaks to us through the words in the Bible. So we move across now to this larger item. This is called the pulpit. It's really just a raised platform for the minister to speak from. So if I go up into it, usually when classes like you come to the church, I allow you just a few at a time to come up here so you can see what the view is like from the pulpit. But the camera can do that for you today. When we get to the appropriate part of the service, the minister preaches the sermon. That just means that they explain the part of the Bible that was read earlier from the lectern and tries to show what God is saying to us through that bit of the Bible. Here in Teviot, I don't normally use the pulpit. I speak from this music stand here in the centre because it brings me nearer to the people and it's just a bit easier to speak to them. And we film the services on a Sunday so they can go out on the internet to those who aren't able to come to church. So that means that the camera at the back can pick me up very easily for that. We now come to this object. Do you know what it's called? It's called a font. It comes from the word that means fountain, and it contains the water that we use when we baptize a baby or an adult here, and we sprinkle the forehead with water. This font is too small for a baby to be dipped in, and that's not so funny because in some parts of the world, in some churches, that's what happened. The font is bigger. And it's definitely too small for a grown-up person to get into, isn't it? But that's not so funny either, because if you go to a Baptist church, you will find a pool at the front of the church. And when someone comes to be baptized, an adult, they go right down into the pool, and the minister dips them right under the water and back up again. So what happens here in this church? When parents who trust Jesus and follow him have a baby, they bring that baby along, and I baptize them. I make the sign of the cross with the water on the baby's forehead, and the parents are trusting God that that baby will grow up to trust and follow Jesus too. And we do that, and we welcome that baby into the family of the church. Sometimes someone who is an adult, who has never been baptized before, they start to follow Jesus. And they would come along to the service and tell everyone that they now love and follow Jesus. And we baptize them in the same way, just by sprinkling water on their forehead, making the sign of the cross. We now come to this big table here at the front. I wonder if you know what that's called. It's called the communion table. It's even got a cloth on it just now, because on Sunday we're going to be having communion. It says on the front there, "This do in remembrance of me," which is old-fashioned English for do this to remember me. At communion, we have a very simple meal. We each eat a small piece of bread and drink from a small glass of wine. And we do that to remember Jesus. He died on the cross. His body, he suffered terribly there. His body was broken on the cross, just like the bread was broken. And he bled and died, and the red wine or red grape juice reminds us of that. And we remember Jesus and we give thanks to him, and we eat the meal together. Normally the bread and wine are served from this big table. We can't do that at the moment because of the virus. So on Sunday, each person will have their bit of bread and their small glass of wine at their pews. An extra thing at this time of year is this Advent ring with the candles that are lit each Sunday leading up to Christmas. There's 4 of them for the 4 Sundays of Advent, which is the time we look ahead to Christmas, and the white one to be lit on Christmas Day itself. So you'll see one of the candles lit here. Just a few more things to show you. Up here we have the organ. You can see all the pipes there, and there are a lot more pipes in behind those ones. They give a rich, fine, loud sound for us to sing to, although at the moment we're not allowed to sing, of course, because of the virus. So here we have the manual, the keyboards for the organ where it is played. I'm going to play something for you. So up above the communion table, you can see this window. It's a stained glass window. You find them in churches, and they usually tell a story about Jesus and the Christian faith and so on. This one celebrates this church and many others in Scotland coming back into the Church of Scotland 91 years ago. And it has Jesus there, and it says he's the great shepherd over the one flock of sheep. Over here on the other side of the church, there is a window that has a picture of Jesus risen from the dead, the risen Lord Jesus. So there's just one last thing to show you now. If I press the buttons on this remote control, something quite remarkable happens. The screen comes down from the very high ceiling. And we use this screen to show the words of hymns and songs that we're singing, video clips, pictures, notes for the sermon, and so on. And that works very well for us. There's also another screen and a monitor to cover the aisles. So there we are. A happy Christmas to you all. It's going to be a bit different this year, but do have a happy Christmas, all of you, when Christmas comes.